About 11,000 years ago, something unprecedented happened. Want to know what it is? Stay until the end of the video and be surprised with what we have for you. So my old sports, this is EdDevelop, where you will find the best scientific and similar curiosities. Subscribe, activate the notification bell to enrich your day every time we upload a new video, and consider our Patreon. Find the link below in the description. Now, it is time for the fun part. 11,000 years ago, the Earth's climate became stable. This geological era of predictable temperatures, known as the Holocene epoch, allowed humans to develop agriculture, domesticate animals, and essentially create the modern world we know today. But in the process, we also wiped out species, damaged ecosystems, polluted the air, water, and land, and created the climate crisis. In other words, we have entered the Anthropocene, the current geological epoch in which humans are primarily responsible for changes to the planet. In this context, an international group of scientists led by Sweden's Johan Rockström of the Stockholm Resilience Center began to examine the risk of disrupting the Earth's natural balance and resilience. His influential study, published in 2009, defined 9 interconnected boundaries or parameters that are critical to maintaining the planet's stability. In addition to identifying these 9 processes, the experts defined very specific quantitative measures for each of them, which delineate a safe zone of action and a zone of risk that is becoming increasingly dangerous. If we do not cross these boundaries, they say humanity can continue to thrive for generations to come. But if we cross even one of them, we risk causing irreversible environmental changes in the entire system and triggering the collapse of our society. The 9 planetary boundaries. Of the 9 planetary boundaries, we have already crossed 4. 3 are in the safe zone for now, and 2 are still a big unknown. Number 1, climate change. One of the 4 boundaries we have already crossed is perhaps the most familiar of all: climate change. Since the Industrial Revolution, the global temperature has risen by 1.1 degrees Celsius. This increase is responsible for the increasing frequency of extreme weather events around the world, such as droughts and floods. According to the United Nations, UN, there are 5 times more weather disasters today than in 1970, and they are 7 times more costly. The result is more devastation and more deaths. The scientific community affirms that to prevent the consequence of climate change from being even worse, it is necessary to limit the temperature increase to around 1.5 degrees Celsius. However, if we continue with business as usual, the increase could reach 4.4 degrees Celsius by the end of this century, which would be catastrophic. Moreover, climate change is one of the 2 planetary boundaries that are considered central because of its impact on the entire system. So let's work to stop it, old sport. Number 2, Biosphere Integrity. Biosphere integrity, i.e. biodiversity loss and species extinction, is another central boundary that we have crossed. However, unlike climate change, this process has already passed the zone of increasing risk and is now directly in the zone of high risk, increasing the likelihood of large-scale, irreversible environmental change. We have crossed this threshold so far that some researchers believe we are in the midst of the 6th mass extinction in the history of the planet. For perspective, mass extinctions were periods in which 60 to 95% of species were wiped out. 1 million species of animals and plants are now threatened with extinction. The challenge is monumental, considering that of the 8 million animal and plant species that currently inhabit the planet, 1 million are threatened with extinction. Yet it is a necessary effort. Healthy ecosystems provide us with clean air, fertile soil, fresh water, pollinated crops, raw materials for new medicines, and a long list of other benefits. Want to stop it? Then start by reporting it. Hey, wait! Now's the time! Subscribe to the channel to be entertained while learning. It's free! Number 3, land use change. Land use is another boundary we have crossed and consists of the conversion of forests, grasslands, wetlands, tundra, and other types of vegetation, primarily into land for agriculture and livestock. Deforestation, for example, has an enormous impact on the climate's ability to regulate itself, as specialists remind us every time there's a fire in the Amazon. But land use change is also one of the driving forces behind severe declines in biodiversity, especially as the demand for land to produce food grows. In fact, one of today's sustainability challenges is how to feed the nearly 8 billion people on the planet, and the 2 billion more by 2050, without taking more land from nature. Do you know someone who is making a difference? Share this information with them. Number 4. Biochemical Fluxes. The fourth and final frontier that has already been crossed is that of biochemical fluxes, which mainly includes the phosphorus and nitrogen cycles. Although both elements are essential for plant growth, their excessive use in fertilizers puts them at risk. One of the problems is that some of the phosphorus and nitrogen applied to crops ends up in the ocean, where it pushes aquatic systems beyond their own ecological limits. There are many ways to stop this, including plants that do the work of these chemicals. It's just a matter of research and wanting to be part of the change. Number 5. Stratospheric ozone depletion. Of the 9 processes, only one in which humanity has successfully responded to the warning signs is stratospheric ozone depletion. More than 30 years ago, the entire world agreed to ban chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, chemicals that were causing a hole in the ozone layer. The consequences of losing this protective layer ranged from increased cases of skin cancer to irreversible environmental damage. The Montreal Protocol, in effect since 1989, banned the use of certain substances to protect the ozone layer, which is essential for limiting ultraviolet radiation from the sun. And it worked! So all is not lost, old sport. Number 6. Freshwater use. While freshwater use is currently within the safe action zone, we are rapidly moving into the risk zone. It is true that the Earth can be seen as a blue dot from space, but only 2.5% of it is fresh water. This percentage is decreasing, mainly due to the increasing pressure of agriculture to produce more and more food. It is important to note that while desalination is an option, it consumes a lot of energy, usually from the same fossil fuels that contribute to climate change. It is also a source of pollution for coastal ecosystems. Do you have a solution? Leave it in the comments. Number 7. Ocean acidification. With ocean acidification, something similar to freshwater is happening. The line has not yet been crossed, but we are dangerously close. Keep an eye on it. Coral bleaching exposes corals to disease and has already caused massive coral die-offs around the world. The problem is that its effects, like coral death, are hidden underwater. This particular process poses an extra layer of risk, as several of history's mass extinctions were triggered by ocean acidification. The good news is that if the climate change targets ratified at COP26 are met, ocean pH will be kept under control. All we have to do is start changing our lifestyles, perhaps a little more consciously, to what the planet needs. Number 8. Atmospheric aerosol. There are 2 other limits that are not on either side of the border, and that is that scientists don't know how to measure them. There is no baseline for the last 11,000 years for these processes because they are new, Tobian explains. Breathing highly polluted air is responsible for about 800,000 premature deaths each year. One of the contributing factors is the pollution of the atmosphere with man-made aerosols, microscopic particles produced mainly by the burning of fossil fuels, but also by other activities such as forest fires. These aerosols affect both the climate, for example, by altering monsoon systems in tropical regions, and living organisms. About 800,000 people die prematurely each year from breathing polluted air. What does this mean? Increased extinction of species. Number 9. Creation of new entities. The 9th and final process is the incorporation of so-called new entities. These are man-altered elements or organisms, as well as entirely new substances. This includes a list of hundreds of thousands of entities ranging from radioactive materials to microplastics. But perhaps the best example is CFCs, those chemicals that were banned to save the stratospheric ozone layer. Do we know how bad we are at this limit? We don't, we just know that consumerism is driving us to the brink of extinction. Do you want that, old sport? Then let's do something about it. Hope as action. The work of the Stockholm Resilience Center not only warns of the core problems facing the planet, it also offers hope. Tobian tells BBC World, "We know what the problem is and that we have a problem, but at the same time we know what the possible solutions would be. We have them at hand. The challenge we face is large and urgent. In the decade leading up to 2030, humanity must undergo a massive transformation to stay online. But scientists say it can be done. It will take bold and swift action by all the world's governments, starting with the use of renewable energy. Our addiction to fossil fuels is pushing humanity to the brink, said UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres at COP26. Enough burning, drilling, and digging. We are digging our own grave, he added. But achieving a sustainable world will also require lifestyle changes for everyone, including you and me. Eating more vegetables, conserving energy, planting trees, and choosing to walk, cycle, or take public transport are concrete steps that experts say will make a difference. In other words, achieving sustainable development is possible and necessary, but not easy. As Swedish activist Greta Thunberg said in a speech before COP26 that went viral, hope is not blah blah blah. Hope is telling the truth. Hope is action. And you, what are you doing to change this reality? Do you have any ideas to change it? Tell us in the comments. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. My old sport, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content. See you next time.